All right, still looking at the Monetary Policy Committee's meeting, expected decision. All right, let's bring in Paul Alaje, the lead economist and enterprise partner at SPN Professional. Thank you very much, Mr. Alaje, for joining us on the program.
Yeah, thank you so very much for having me.
Now, since the last MPC, we've seen more countries in Africa, including Nigeria, roll out vaccines, even though at a slower pace. However, there are still concerns about the impact of a potential third wave of coronavirus infections globally. How significant is this for economic recovery, and how do you see this shaping the decisions of the MPC this time?
Well, I think this will help MPC to make decision whether to relax or to tighten or to sit on the fence. Recall that Nigeria now has, even though very low when it comes to what has happened in Europe, when you compare the number of vaccines and you compare that with the total number of population. But I strongly believe that as Nigerian authority continue to expect more vaccine to come into the country, and the rollout plan of vaccine, I believe we would increase. This will give positive signal and hope for monetary authority as to the expectation of how the economy activity will be in future. Also note that this is not just about what is happening in Nigeria, but more importantly, what is happening around the world, because the commodity that has largest impact on exchange rate in Nigeria and also on the economic activity in terms of revenue of government remains the crude oil. And Nigeria, even though we export, we cannot sell to ourselves because of our non-functional refinery as we have them today. So we have to export and also buy from the world for us to have PMS in our vehicle operations, generators, plants, etc., etc. So the more vaccines we have around the world, the more the business confidence we have, which will bring about stability. It will have impact on growth. Recall that Nigeria had narrowly escaped recession. We are now at 0.11%. Apart from that, we've seen inflation as it continues to grow because I believe this will be one of the considerations of monetary authorities today. We have also seen what is happening to unemployment according to a new report published by the National Bureau of Statistics. So what I'm expecting is vaccine on one hand is sending positive signal, is sending signal of hope, but the mention of third wave is also a huge concern. What that means is we have to make decision cautiously.
Now, still looking at the external front, there is the recent $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief bill signed by the U.S. president. And of course, last week, the Fed signaled it's not going to raise rates until 2023. Now, these are supposed to have some kind of spillover effect on commodity prices like oil. So how do you think this, again, will influence this decision?
Okay, so first of all, to say what I expect from MPC today, I don't expect an increase, even though that analysis before our organization came up with that position of what we expect monetary policy to do. We have considered several factors because if you increase now, unlike what the rest of the world is doing by keeping rate intact, most economies are just trying to have a U-shape. We are at that turning point, like Nigeria experienced it in the Q4, as announced by National Bureau of Statistics. It is still very, very fragile. So what is wise for most economies to do is perhaps to keep rates intact, even though there are other analyses around that, but because of the question right now, we need to keep rate intact. But you see, we have other concerns. Population is being vaccinated, the vaccination is going on, but we need to also do that with speed so that the third wave will not be here before we start the massive rollout of COVID. So I am seeing in the near future, talk about 3 months, 6 months down the line, a relatively balanced economy compared to the fragile economy that we are operating right now. And this will send even more positive signal to Monetary Policy Committee as to what the rate should be. I'm not seeing major adjustment, particularly in MPR. I still expect it to remain at 11.5%, and that will have implication on what banks we give to attract more people to save, so that we can have higher investment, because savings, fixed deposits, and all of those we send signal. Also for government ability to access funds through T-bills and bonds, it will also have tremendous impact on all of those. This will also affect our foreign investment, even though it might not be directly related, because when rates goes high, it is expected that we are going to have more in terms of attraction to the economy. But should we sacrifice that for the growth that is fragile? I think Monetary Authority will go for growth. The central bank governor, in about 3 announcements of MPC, had said right now Monetary Authority needs to help fiscal authority in terms of achieving growth goal for Nigeria. And you recall that from minus 6.4% to minus 3.64%, now to 0.11%. What all Nigeria needs is positive growth to be sustained, and for Nigeria perhaps to meet up with population growth than before we start having that. So America and so many other central bankers around the world have sustained their market because of high level of uncertainty. Inflation is, although at 17.5%, but when you look at the key cause of inflation, when you break down what is driving inflation, one of the major components, it is not monetary driven. It is, in fact, food driven. We call it food inflation. And food inflation is increasing because of high level of insecurity. So if we can fix security to a reasonable extent, and we have more and more people go to farm, I'm happy that government have relaxed the border closure policy. So we're expecting that even the rate of growth of food inflation should we reduce by now, which we'll start seeing, I think, from by the end of this quarter, this month, we'll start seeing a significant reduction in food inflation, even though inflation may still go high, but the major driver of this increase in inflation will start to reduce. But more importantly, for us to see significant reduction, either in inflation or food inflation, we need to secure the population. We need to secure the farms. We also need to provide reasonable security and logistics, because these are 2 major factors driving inflation, apart from other monetary factors.
All right, Mr. Alaje, a quick one before we end this segment of the conversation. On a broader scale, how do you see most African countries navigating this challenging time, especially given their vulnerability with volatile commodities, the COVID-19 resurgence, and of course the slow vaccine rollout? Okay, so I want most African countries to subject the vaccines to further rigorous tests. If they can confirm that it is safe for human, I think they should vaccinate the entire population, maybe to have herd immunity. Talk about 50, 60, 70%. What that means is production will continue. As production continues, that is what will bring most of the economies out of the current economic quagmire. So if they are able to get that, you start also seeing reduction in inflation, and at the same time, unemployment. So when they can do that, we start seeing jobs will be created. We start seeing African countries will experience what they had before COVID. But before vaccine, if third wave comes, even though we are producing locally, and people say it's not affecting Africa the way it affected the rest of the world, the truth is, so long as Africa still needs to do business with the rest of the world, when demand reduces, it will have implication on supply, because even if you produce everything and nobody is buying, or you are not buying sufficiently enough, it's going to affect your revenue. This is how COVID for Africa is more economic danger than health danger for Africa, because when you put together the impact of COVID in Africa compared to economic impact, certainly economic impact outweighs the health impact. But of course, what should Africa do is to see how to get the population, particularly about 50 to 70% of the population, how to get vaccines, and check which of the organizations producing vaccines today have the safest, have the best, that is good for Africa. So if they can do this, they also need to partner with some other organization. I understand some organizations are already giving reliefs in terms of debt repayment and so on and so forth. I also want more and more of those to get to Africa. So also to quickly see how African Continental Free Trade Area ratification, what has been ratified, Africa should start doing business, inter-trade within African continent. This could also boost trade and economy within
within the continent. More importantly, is to provide relief support. When you look at what central bank has done in the last 1 year within Nigeria, for instance, by providing several relief, name it, targeting production, etc., particularly from pharmaceuticals, small-scale businesses, schools, etc. If we can repeat this for the rest of Africa, because this is a dangerous moment. You saw what the American president signed, about $1.9 trillion. That's over $1 trillion. That's a lot of money. Even though Africa may not be able to sign that much, but what we can sign to support the local business, the small-scale businesses, to give them that support which they need now, so that we don't lose them before we get back to economic recovery.
All right.
I think it would be a good way to go for most African countries.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paul Alhaji. Well, in about 16, 17 minutes from now, the Central Bank Governor, of course, will be announcing the policy decision. Thank you very much, Mr. Alhaji, for being on the show.